I do want to move on, though, to a far more serious topic. That's the Ja Morant situation. I know you've talked extensively about that on social media. It's been a topic of discussion today in the sports world. My immediate takeaway, and then I'll hand it over to you, is I said on my show at the time that the first incident happened just 2 months ago, was the fact that the NBA, not just the NBA, but even as well, the Grizzlies, I don't even call it a punishment. It was, heck, I don't even call it a slap on the wrist. There
No,
was the whole
what?
thing, the whole thing about he stayed in Florida. Like, now we're starting to question that. It was an
Hey, he's in
8-game
Florida, all right.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It was an 8-game suspension, but he had already served most of the 8 games. He did the interview with Jalen Rose. I remember that, and it all felt rushed. And anytime, not to get too deep here, but anybody who's ever dealt with mental health issues, man, it's a process. It's just like I heard someone once call it, it's like brushing your teeth. Like, you got to work on it every single day. It can't just be like this 1 week process, which I felt like it was with Ja Morant. So was I surprised in the slightest that this IG live happened? No. But this is kind of who Ja has shown himself to be. I feel like this should be a minimum half-season suspension, just given how close the two events happen with one another.
Yeah.
And I put 95% of the blame on Ja and 5% of the blame on the Memphis Grizzlies, because they have allowed this to happen. They allowed Godzilla to run wild in the city, and now they're just surprised that listen, Dillon Brooks is a symptom of the problem. He's not the problem.
Nope.
There's nothing Dillon Brooks has done that's come close to this. But that's sort of my immediate takeaway. What was your thoughts right off the bat when the Ja gun situation happened?
The initial reaction that I had was idiot brain. If you have anybody in your immediate circle that is showing symptoms of idiot brain, I will explain exactly what idiot brain is. It is certain things that spew out of your mouth. There's certain looks that you have. You'll have this stoic, distant look. You'll start to do a lot of stupid things. The things that you've done before, they won't process in your brain and register that there's actually something wrong with you or something that you're doing incorrect, so that you'll continue to repeat it. So somebody will tell you, hey, that's not a good idea. Oh, you're right. Okay, cool. And then you'll go right back and do it again. Idiot brain. So when I saw it happen, I wasn't surprised. It didn't shock me, because the first initial time it happened, I said, believe who he is. Stop trying to project about, oh, he's this. Listen, Ja could be a good kid. I'm not saying that he's not. But this is who he is. He's a good kid that has terrible character flaws. Can he fix those character flaws? 100%. Does he want to? That's the question. You can be able to have counselors and guidance people, influencers, and impact his life. Good people. I'm sure his parents are very, very good people and raised a good kid and raised him in a middle class home. He doesn't come from the streets. He wasn't sleeping on the streets, right? But if he wants to be this, no amount of guidance that he got from his parents or coaches or whoever is going to prevent him from being a knucklehead. That's what he wants to be. So, as an organization, as the NBA, you have to be the ones to say, okay, if this is who you want to be, we don't want this. And we are going to put the hammer down on you. 55 games is what he needs. See, the thing is, there's a lot of people, and I have a lot of people in my life as well that this happens to, right? Where you want the best for them. You want them to do well. You want them to get on the right track and not be a screw up. But some people have to learn the hard way. Ja Morant is one of those people. He's 23 years old. 23 years old. Sometimes you have to learn the hard way. If you get it taken away from you, then and only then will you understand the importance of what you're actually doing. But they didn't try to take it away from him. They gave him a slap on the wrist, just like you said. This time, it needs to be different. If you have an image of your league, if you have an image of your team, of what you want to portray to young kids in the community, and you want these players to be role models, we've always heard that players are not role models. Well, they are by default, because kids are watching them anyway. They want to be like them. They're always going to be role models, even if they don't want to be. So if that's what you need for your organization, or if that's what you're trying to portray for your league, for your image, You need to give him 55 games. Nothing more, nothing less. If you want to give more, but 55, I think, is a good number for him because that's gonna let him sit there and really, really understand, like, yo, what am I really doing with my life? Because all of this can be taken away, and those same dudes that I'm driving around with, having a good time in the car, flashing guns, you think they're gonna be around, or they're just gonna look at him like, yeah, that dude used to be up. He used to be that guy that was a superstar in the league. Yeah, we go on to the next one. They're not gonna care. So he has to understand that it's like you are somebody that is a role model. You have to start behaving that way. You got to start moving your circle. You got to start moving differently. And if he doesn't get that, then the NBA just needs to do it for him. That's all.
And something else too, a few more takeaways for me was that Adam Silver dropped the hammer on Draymond Green for the stomp on Sabonis because he felt as if there was this
History,
narrative, the history, but this narrative around the commissioner that always too light on players, and so he came down too hard, in my view, and I think in your view as well, on Draymond Green. You don't think he's going to hear about the last time that he came down too easy on Ja, that he's not going to try and do the same thing again for something far more severe than what Draymond did on the court? So I think that's a factor as well. And something else too, and I've been on this for a year that the Grizzlies are a better basketball team without Ja Morant. Not just the fact that he's a liability defensively. They move the ball way better with Tyus Jones in, who's more of a pure, kind of classic vintage point guard. And by the way, they're a better shooting team with them off the floor. You got guys like Bane, like Kennard. Tyus Jones can knock down the three, even Jaren Jackson. And so, is it time for the Grizzlies to at least consider it? Because I've kind of been on this for a year. That, and by the way, in the locker room, I'm not sure he's all that great.
Listen, I that could be the case, right? That he's not the best locker room guy. Because at the end of the day, we did hear, Steven Adams was trying to get the guys together, and he walked out of there and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, he's 23, right? He's a young kid, but I agree with you. At some point, you can't use that as an excuse anymore because you're 23 and they've given you a lot of money. They've given you a lot of responsibility for you to wake up and grow up fast and try to get to where they want you to be. They paid you for not who you are, for who they think you're going to be. And if you're not living up to that standard, see, this is why the NFL is what the NFL is. If this was in the NFL, he would be cut already.
Oh, 100%.
Like if it violated whatever policies, obviously it's not the same thing of domestic violence or anything like that. But if whatever policies they have in place and you break them, they're not hesitant to cut you in the NFL. You're a dime a dozen in the NFL because it's about the team rather than the individual.
Yes.
In basketball, it's the other way around, is that the individuals run the teams. Memphis has to take charge of their franchise. The NBA needs to take charge of their image. I was having a conversation with my homies, and shouts to my man Fang McFrost and Chili McFreeze from the All Even podcast. We were talking about dress code. We were talking about how the dress code in the NBA, although you want guys to be expressive, I would like to see it get a little bit more buttoned up again because it's a professional thing. This is a league. This is a profession. This is a billion-dollar company. You are going to look the way I want you to look. Off the court, coming to the arena, whatever you do, your tattoos, whatever. But coming to the arena, you're going to have a certain look. In your press conferences, you're going to have a certain look because that's the image that the NBA wants to portray. I think it's time for them to really start to think about everything, just everything in a pot. And it starts here. Honestly, I think Ja Morant is going to have to learn a hard lesson, and it's time for it. It's time for it.
Okay. No, I feel you. I mean, I think I can make the argument that the NFL's dress code isn't all that different from the NBA.
All the leagues. I think all of them, not just the NBA. I'm not going to single out the NBA. I think all of them.
Okay. All right, I feel you there. Let's see. We have some comments here. Let's see, and this is 100% right. Our guy Parnell from the Grid. Shannon Sharp said, "A wise person learns from someone else's mistakes. A fool learns from their own." That is actually a Bible verse that is very much applies to this situation with Ja Morant. Grady says Josh should get suspended the season. He needs to learn. Can't baby the man. And that's what I'm saying. Like it's got to be something that's sort of a culture shock because clearly Barry, the $40 million he lost by not making the All NBA team didn't affect him that much.
Why should he care when he still has his Nike deal and he has a Powerade deal? You think he's gonna? He's 23 years old. You know what your thought process is at 23 when you're making over $200 million is that the money will never run out. It'll
Yeah.
never stop coming in until it does. That's what a 23-year-old thinks like. Oh, I got all this money now. Phew, by the time I'm 30, I'm gonna be a billionaire. They don't care. Do you think he sneezes at $40 million? Well, okay, cool. I lost 40. I'll get 80. I get another 100 million somewhere else. That's how he's thinking until you take it away, and then he's gonna be like, damn, this is really it. Like I blew through all of that money because I thought it would be more. No, this is it. End of the road. That's what reality is for Ja Morant, is that they have to take it away. That doesn't mean that you're trying to be mean to the kid or whatever, but he gotta learn a lesson. He has to learn a lesson.
I'm with you. Again, there's got to be a statement made in some way, shape, or form.